Picture this. Prague, 1968. It's a time of incredible optimism, a period that would later be called the Prague Spring. For months, a wave of liberalization had swept across Czechoslovakia. Under the new leader Alexander Dubček, the country was experiencing a taste of freedom it hadn't known for decades. He called it socialism with a human face. Censorship was relaxed. Artists and writers could express themselves freely, and people were openly discussing political reforms. There was a palpable feeling in the air that a new, more open era was dawning. For the first time, citizens felt they had a real voice in their future. The entire nation was buzzing with hope and excitement, dreaming of a more democratic and sovereign path. But this blossoming of freedom was being watched closely, and with growing alarm, from Moscow, the Soviet Union, and its hardline Warsaw Pact allies, saw this socialism with a human face as a dangerous threat to their control over Eastern Europe. They feared that this spirit of reform could spread, challenging the very foundation of their communist bloc. The Soviet leadership, under Leonid Brezhnev, issued warnings and held tense negotiations. But Dubček and the Czechoslovak people stood firm. They believed they could forge their own path. The hope that had filled the spring and summer was on a collision course with the iron will of a superpower. Then, on the night of August 20th, the hope was crushed. Without warning, over 200,000 soldiers and thousands of tanks from the Soviet Union, Poland, Hungary, and Bulgaria rolled across the border. Operation Danube had begun. The people of Prague awoke to the thunderous sound of tank treads on their historic cobblestone streets. They were shocked, betrayed. Unarmed civilians poured into the streets, confronting the soldiers not with weapons, but with arguments, with questions, with sheer defiance. They stood in front of tanks, built makeshift barricades, and changed street signs to confuse the invading forces. The world watched in horror as the brief, beautiful Prague Spring was extinguished by the brutal force of a military invasion. The resistance was heroic, but ultimately, it was futile. Dubček and other reformist leaders were arrested and flown to Moscow. They were forced to sign a protocol that effectively ended the reforms. The era of normalization began, a grim period of renewed repression that would last for the next 20 years. Censorship returned, dissent was silenced, and the hope that had defined 1968 was driven underground. The Prague Spring was over, but the memory of that brief, vibrant season of freedom would never be forgotten. It became a powerful symbol of courage and a source of inspiration for future generations who would, decades later, finally win the freedom that was so violently stolen in August 1968. Thanks for watching, and if you want to learn more about pivotal moments in history, be sure to subscribe.